Okay, hi guys. Welcome to week 2 of your post journal experience. This week we're going to talk about plank, chaturanga, and mountain pose. So the first two are a little bit intense, but they're really important to understand because anytime you take a flow yoga class, plank and chaturanga are going to be parts of it. So um, before we just like pop into these poses, I am going to take us through a little warm up. So definitely do this with me um, wherever you are. So first of all, it's really important in plank and chaturanga to have opened up your wrists. So just come to a comfy seat, either on your knees or cross-legged, and then just start to circle out your wrists in both directions. And just notice if any places feel like a little sticky or a little tight. And then a couple times just open and close like you're spraying water off of your hands. And then just a little shoulder stretch. We'll start to take the right arm across your body and just grab, could even hook here and keep circling out in the left wrist. Really relax your shoulders away from your ears. And just come back through center, switch it out. Relax the shoulder on the left side, especially. Maybe circle the wrists a couple more times on the right side. And then just gently release and start to take your shoulders up, around in some circles, just loosening up, maybe one at a time. And take your head around, loosen there. And just notice how the back of your neck feels, the sides into the shoulders. And just let your head hang heavy here for a couple breaths. Really pull the shoulders back and down, spread them apart. And gently release, bring the chin back to neutral. We're going to come to a tabletop position, so I'm going to turn sideways. Then just make sure again that your wrists are right under your shoulders and your knees this time are right under your hips. And then just turn your wrists or your fingers towards your knees, maybe just doing one hand at a time. If it feels okay, you can do both. And then just start to like sway side to side a little bit, maybe shift forward and back, maybe make little circles, just noticing how it feels in the wrists, stretching them out a little more. A lot of times in these poses and in downward dog, people complain about pain in the wrists. That's why it's really important that we're stretching them out. And then just turn the fingers out towards the sides and just rock yourself a little bit side to side. Then bring them back towards center. All right, we're going to find a little bit of movement that I call a scapular push-up. So we're going to first start by pulling the core up and in. Really pull the ribs together, pull the belly button back towards your spine, and then put a little bend in your elbows. And just start to pull the shoulder blades together and notice the chest will kind of dip down towards the ground. And then spread the shoulder blades apart and you'll notice the chest will sort of puff up. And then take a couple more like that, just noticing what happens. This is going to become important in our plank in just a moment. Just creating a little bit of activation here, feeling a little bit of warmth in the core. And then if you want to find some bigger cat and cow movements, you can, just starting to round the spine. As you spread the shoulder blades apart, tuck the chin. And then as you inhale, you'll drop your belly, really pull your chest forward, pull the shoulders back away from the ears, and then round in the spine. Inhale, drop the belly. Let's do one more. Round. And drop. All right, so now we're going to start moving into practicing some plank. So we're gonna walk the hands forward just a little bit, bring the shoulders with you, and you're gonna just come into this sort of a longer table. You also can take the knees back a little bit and then start to just pull your butt down so that it creates a nice long line in between your head and the backs of your knees. Now, keep pulling the shoulders apart. You want to have that spreading apart motion instead of the pulling together motion. Because if you're pulling together, you're going to dip down like this, and this is not good or safe for your shoulders. So spread the shoulders apart, tuck under with the tailbone, and pull your ribs together. And if you're doing it right, you should start to feel like a lot of heat happening even with your knees down. So maybe even like a little shake in the core or the shoulders. And then from here, let's just press back to child's pose, get a break. Like rock the forehead side to side a little bit. Just let yourself relax. Let's start to make your way back up to a seat. So you can always, when we practice and when you practice at home, use that knees down version of plank. It's just as good as the regular version, and it's really important for helping you like build the strength to get to your full plank. I'm going to show you the full plank now, and you're welcome to try it as well. So we'll just come back through tabletop. Again, hands are spread right underneath your shoulders, and really take the fingers as wide as you can take them. Press all of your knuckles down, but especially the index knuckle. And then we'll curl the toes under, lift the knees this time, and come to a full plank. So again, spreading the shoulders as wide as you can, lifting up, and then pressing the heels back. Pull the ribs together, engage the core. Gaze just out in front of you, so you don't want to be like jerking your neck, so don't look forward. You're gonna have your gaze slightly down. Again, puff up through the shoulders, because if you dip down and you pull your shoulders together, you're gonna be in this like weird plank that's bad for your back. So you puff up in the shoulders. And when you're ready, just drop your knees, press back to child's pose. Okay, so now pause this video, journal your reactions to plank, whether it's the knees down or the knees lifted. Both options are equally good. So try that and then come back and press play once you've done that. So now, moving from plank, we're going to find chaturanga, which is a transitional pose for your flow. So you guys know by now that your flow is plank, lower down, cobra, which we did last week, and then back to downward facing dog, which we did last week. So this one, chaturanga, is probably the hardest pose that's part of that sequence, but it is definitely an important part of it because it's what gets you to your belly from plank. So we're going to start with the knees down version, which is what I recommend for everyone like starting out, is to take the knees down version to build strength in the backs of your arms, because chaturanga is not a regular push-up, it's a tricep push-up, which means it's really going to work the backs of your arms instead of the biceps in the front. So to get into it, we're going to start by just moving from child's pose into our knees down plank. So go ahead and come to your child's pose. And then just start to wave yourself forward, nice and slow, all the way until you get to a knees down plank position. So nice long line in the spine, just like we felt before, pulling those ribs together and spreading the shoulders. And then press yourself right back, keeping the arms straight into your child's pose. And we're going to take that a couple more times. So just inhaling to wave forward, really feel like you're pulling yourself forward, all the way until you get a long line in the spine, puff up in the shoulders, and then exhale to press back around the spine into child's pose. 2 more, inhale, wave forward. Exhale, press back.
One more time. Inhale, wave forward. Exhale, press back. All right, this time we're going to start adding in a little modified chaturanga push-up. So we're going to inhale to wave forward. When you get to the top, that modified plank, bend your elbows, lower halfway, then press back up and back into child's pose. We're going to do that 3 more times. So inhaling to wave forward, bend the elbows, lower down halfway, and then press back up and back. So we're not lowering all the way down to our bellies. We're just doing a little bend in the elbows, waving it forward, shoulders spread wide, bend the elbows. Use your exhale, press up and back, child's pose. Last one. Inhale, wave forward, bend the elbows, press back, child's pose. Okay, so we're gonna do it again. If you wanna watch me do it before you try, that's great. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna inhale to wave back forward into my modified plank. And then I'm gonna bend my elbows and hold. So when you do this, you want to have a lot of length in your neck. So you're gazing down, but just out in front of you. Spread the fingers wide. And you want to have a little bit of space between your elbows and the sides of your body. And then eventually you'll just lower all the way down onto your belly. And it will feel nice to just lift the chest into your cobra. And then once you do that, press back to child's pose. Let's try that one more time together. We're going to hold, press into the hands, wave it forward. Long line in the spine, little tuck under with the tailbone. Bend the elbows, a lot of length in the neck. Spread the fingers wide, hold. Pull the ribs together, breathe. And lower all the way down. Inhale, peel the chest, find a little cobra. And then release back to child's pose. A really nice counter pose for chaturanga is in child's pose. Start to bend your elbows. Bring them to prayer position right behind your head. And then just pull your elbows back and you'll feel a nice stretch in the backs of your arms. So again, knees down chaturanga is plenty, and you can always just take that version until you build enough strength in your arms to take the full version and your core. I'm going to show you the full version if you want to try it. And I'm going to start by coming to downward facing dog. So just curling my toes, lifting the hips. So I'm going to move with me through this. And then I'm going to wave forward a couple times into plank, just like we did from child's pose. So inhale, wave forward until you're in that long line, that plank, spreading the shoulders wide, and then exhaling to press back into downward facing dog. Do 3 more of those. Inhale, wave forward to plank. Exhale, press back, down dog. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Last one. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Then this time, I'm going to wave forward to come to plank. Long line, heels pressing back. Exhale, bend your elbows, lower halfway. Then lower all the way down and lift the chest. When you're in that chaturanga, what you really want to feel is your shoulders spreading as far apart as you can. It's going to be a tough pose, so it's not going to be a pose that you can hold for a really long time, and that's okay. You shouldn't. But make sure that you are bending not so far into the elbows that you're coming all the way down. You should still be
halfway or even less than halfway from the mat, from your plank. So you want to be about here, not way down here, because it puts a lot of pressure on your rotator cuff to come that low. And typically people, if they have injuries from doing yoga, it's in their rotator cuff, which is just your little joints and muscles that hold your shoulder together. So you want to make sure that you are keeping them strong and healthy. So you only lower halfway or even a little less, just a little bend of the elbows. That's going to be enough for you to feel it. So go ahead and pause this video, play around with chaturanga, and journal your responses. The last pose for this week is mountain pose, which is a standing pose. So if you come to the top of your mat, you want your feet to be about hips distance apart or even a little more narrow. So you can have your big toes touching. It's going to be a little tougher to balance that way, or you put a little bit of space in between your feet and really root down. If you're wondering, your hips are about 2 fists wide. So you can measure by putting 2 fists in between your feet and then coming back up to stand. When you're in mountain pose, you should feel like very strong and stable. So you want your feet to really be pressing down in every part that they can press down. So that's the balls of your feet and your heels. Then you can pick up your toes, try to spread them apart really wide as you set your toes back down. And when you do that, you're gonna feel some activation and some strength in your legs, your knees, and even in your calves. And then from there, feel like you're pulling your kneecaps up towards your thighs. You're gonna feel even more strength and activation happening there and into the glutes. Now for the upper body, pick up your shoulders by your ears, roll them down and away from your spine, finding a little bit of a squeeze together like we did in tabletop earlier. Palms face forward. Sometimes you'll have variations of this pose where your hands will be at your heart, or your arms will be lifted overhead. This is extended mountain pose. For now, just keep your hands down by your sides, palms face forward. And then if you feel okay with it, close your eyes. And just notice how it feels here. It should be very strong, very stable, very rooted, but also a little bit of work happening in the legs if you keep the activation. So you're not just standing there, you're actually working here in this pose, and that's why it's called mountain. And then from mountain, you can always play with other variations, such as finding side bends. And if you do find side bends, make sure you press equally into both of your feet. You also can find heart openers by pulling your arms down, maybe a shoulder stretch, bringing your hands to your low back, pulling down. Or of course, just standing in stillness is plenty and also really good in terms of like meditation and catching a breath. So go ahead and pause now, practice mountain pose and journal your responses. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Thanks for moving with me. Check out another one next time. Bye.